Hello. I'd like to talk a little bit about what meditation is and go into it a little more in depth than perhaps the usual basic explanation. When we think of the word meditation, of course, a lot of people who are listening to this have been trained in some method, some form. And I will say, when we think of meditation, again, we usually think of some type of exercise or practice where we place our attention upon an object of attention, and we do that willfully, using willpower to tether or direct this attention to the object or the focus of attention. That implies the usual way of perceiving the world of self, object being the object of awareness, be it the breath, be it a visualization, be it listening to music, and so on and so on and so on. There are many techniques. Self, object, and then the will applied to the world. The separation between self and world, and then again a willful, self-generated effort, fabrication directed at the external world. And when we start meditation, of course, that is the way we think of it. But this word meditation has many different meanings. So in our culture, when we hear that word, we cannot assume, by far cannot assume, we know what's being talked about, or that we know what we are talking about, unless we're aware of different meanings, different levels. At least let's speak in the Buddhist context. I will mention one thing about mind and how it works, and then I'd like to go into a number of levels of meditation, more based on experience than any formal teaching. I believe there's a teaching that has traditionally 9 levels of meditation. That's a formal structure. At some point we may teach that, but I don't have it memorized, and that's not what I want to discuss right now. I want to talk to experientially, things that I have personally experienced, levels that I think make a lot of sense in terms of how we experience our own practice in a simple, direct, experiential way. What I wanted to mention about mind is that in the Tibetan tradition there are 2 aspects of mind. Okay, when we talk about mind, of course, we are usually speak of the contents of the mind. Imagine a receptacle or a space or a bubble. That's a space, a cleared space, and within that space then we experience emotions, thoughts, identifications. Those are the contents of that bubble, of that space. They're not the space itself. Imagine a room with furniture. The room is defined by the space in which the objects or bodies are present. Space allows these to emerge, to exist, to be. It accommodates all things. In the same way, mentally, we speak of mind in terms of the contents of the mind, which is what Western psychology primarily focuses on. Thoughts, emotions, history, memories. And then there's the space of the mind in which these things arise. The content of the thinking mind is called in Tibetan Sen. In fact, that's connected to the ego. It's the scheming, logical thinking, chain of thought. It's what traps us into, what's called discursive thinking, and into solidifying the world. And then the space, the bubble, is called Rigpa. It's clear awareness. You might think of it another way. The distinction between, when you look at your computer, the distinction between the images, and there's a whole world that happens in voices, and the distinction between that and the screen, the clear screen in which everything takes place, yet the screen does not participate in all the goings-on in this world that manifests in the screen, or worlds that manifest in the screen. You may even see a movie of a car traveling through a vast expanse and so on, but all that is contained in the screen, which in itself doesn't do anything but allows things to come up. Another, a more traditional analogy is that with a mirror, we don't get involved in the physics and the photons and all that. To leave it at, say, the level of an observer 2,000 years ago, the mirror reflect the whole world, yet it's not affected and it's not active in the process. We look at the mirror, we can see everything, valleys, sky, stars, yet the mirror remains smooth, clear, calm. In the same way, Rigpa is the mirror and Sem is all the activity reflected in the mirror. Suffice it to say that, and when we go into meditation, that'll fit in terms of the explanation. The first level I wanted to mention is that, again, the common sense level, so, quote, common sense, which is meditation is, let's say, in the example of the more traditional Buddhist mindfulness practice, which is following the breath, sometimes in-breath and out-breath. In the Kagyu, more following the out-breath, as Chogyam Trungpa pretty much established for us in the West, just following the out-breath. In that case, there's that view that I'm separate from the breath, I focus my attention on the breath. When I drift off, I, again, willfully, gently, with humor, but willfully bring it back to the object of meditation, which is the breath. The object could be stature or visualization, and so on, sensations. So that's the first level. Then, as we practice, and the mind becomes, of course, we follow the breath, and we know there's thoughts, and we label them thoughts, and go back, and we find that the mind is just churning out a lot of thought. At some point, as the mind calms down, the distinction between the meditator and the breath, the breather and the breathe, begins to fade out. We're relaxed enough, and we have a posture that allows us to remain erect and not fall down or something. We're relaxed enough that we begin to experience sort of being the breath, or as someone said, being breathed by the universe. There isn't a sense, and of course the breath is a good object because if you let it be, it involuntarily, by itself, continues to breathe. So it's something we can drop the will, and or at least apply the will to the mindful part, using alertness when we track off, going back to mindfulness. So we begin to feel one. We're one with the breath. We are the breath. There's no I, really. There's, you might say, breath or breathing. So that experience of the sort of dissolution or the merger, the unity of the object with the self is very important, because it's the beginning of the breakdown of the separateness of self and other. So there's that point. There's two levels in Buddhist meditation: shamatha and vipassana. Shamatha is a calming stage that is preliminary to allow the mind to calm, so it becomes like a calm lake. Vipassana is a stage when we look at the mind. In the West, those two are usually combined, and in fact, sort of almost inadvertent to us, the teachers, the masters, when they give talks, they're really, in a lot of